So we are joined in conversation by Max Borgmann. Max is the director of pre-sales at Basware, and having recruited quite heavily in the space, I know that Max is really well considered in the procurement technology area. So Max, thanks so much for taking the time to speak to us.
Sure. Thanks for
Good
having me.
stuff. Our pleasure. So I think to kick things off, are you able to give us
Sure. So Basware is a global provider for purchase-to-pay solutions. We are one of the market leaders. We're simplifying the operations of our customers and help them to spend smarter. And basically, my role at Basware is that I'm responsible for the European pre-sales team. I am leading at the moment. I'm managing 18 direct headcounts or 18 direct reports. Have been recruiting in the European area quite heavily in the last couple of years, and growing people, developing people further to make sure that they are sticking around, I would say.
Good stuff. 18 direct reports. Hey, you've got your work cut out.
Yeah, it's quite a lot, but if you have a rather senior team, I think it works out quite well.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So, they say that pre-sales is the best job that no one's ever heard of. What do you kind of personally love about pre-sales?
I think on the one hand, the collaboration with customers, getting into them and getting into the details of what keeps them awake during the night, like finding out what are their targets and really working with the customers and the sales teams to come up with great solutions that will solve their problems. I think that's probably the most important thing for me. And also what I can see from my team, what they are most happy about really is customer engagement and helping them.
If you're thinking about the hiring process, how important is this step in your day-to-day job? Like how much hiring have you done and how important is in the moment for you?
Well, I would say, fortunately, the Great Resignation hasn't been a topic for us so far in the last couple of years. So we were able to retain almost everyone in our team, which is obviously great. So we didn't have to do that much of hiring. But I mean, I think hiring is a super important topic if you think about building the team and making sure that you have the right individuals in the team to ensure that the team spirit and the team culture is outstanding from my perspective. That's probably the word it should be. I think if you hire people that are not compatible from a personal perspective and personality perspective, you end up in a situation where people are not collaborating well with each other. While if you have people that are cool with each other and everybody has great personalities, everybody is almost feeling like they're part of something bigger, part of a family. I think you also have everyone really supporting everyone else, which is then coming to great performance and a good outcome.
So that's really interesting. So you've obviously put a lot of emphasis there on team culture and team building, and at the same time, you said you've not been affected over the last 18 months, where I'm sure all of the people in your team have been approached multiple times on multiple different positions. So I think that reflects well on the culture that's built. So congratulations.
Thank you.
So could you walk us through what your current hiring process looks like? So what are the different stages and what are you looking to assess?
Yeah, so basically I think it's fairly simple. So we're trying to find candidates on LinkedIn or mainly on LinkedIn. I would say inbound candidates are rather rare. I don't think Basware is a company that is super well recognized on the market.
They're rare in most companies.
Yeah, and I think probably, as you say, it's probably the same for every other company as well. But I think we're not the best known company on the pre-sales market or in the SaaS market. And I think what we have to do is mainly outbound and try to find candidates ourselves. So what we're basically doing is make a long list of candidates, sometimes 50 profiles, 100 profiles that our internal recruitment team is coming up with, but also the hiring managers are giving their input on that topic, of course. And then from this long list, we're looking at the profiles. We're checking out whether from from a black and white perspective on their CVs, it could be a good fit. We're mainly looking at how much pre-sales experience they have, what kind of roles they have been doing in the past, if they, for example, been working in other SaaS companies, working with cloud solutions and so on. And then what we basically do is as a first step, of course, contact them, ask them if they're interested at all, and then go into a very casual conversation. So the first conversation we're having with our candidates is really like trying to find out what they're doing, have a conversation really on eye level, and have a really open and honest two-way conversation, where they can ask a lot of questions, where we can ask a lot of questions. And I think the main target for this one first conversation is really to find out what the person is all about, what the personality looks like, and if it could be a good fit for our team from a personality perspective, but also from a skill perspective.
Thank you, Max. And you said earlier that you are looking for an outstanding team and some great personality abilities. And if you are thinking about your best SEs, could you tell me what are the top 3 qualities that they have?
Yes, probably I can. So first of all, as I said, great personality. I think that's the most important thing. To be motivated, to be helpful with others, to be supportive, maybe also sometimes to think outside of the box, to not be too much stuck into processes, because I mean we are at the end in a sales organization. We even if we have a sales process, and probably every company has a sales process, I think you as a company in a sales organization, you also want to be customer centric to some extent, and customer centricity for me means that we have to be flexible. So I think being motivated, being flexible, being willing to learn, I think that's probably also a super important topic.
It's always interesting asking these questions because time and time again, what comes up are the soft skills. You know, the answers never are around technical capabilities, which obviously have to be there, but it seems that it's the soft skills that really kind of make the difference. So if you look at the different components of the pre-sales cycle, you know, in terms of all the different aspects of the job, you know, working effectively with account executives or discovery, demos, RFPs, whatever you like, for you personally or for Basware, where are the kind of the critical moments where a candidate, you know, really needs to perform? What are the most important aspects for you?
I would say in the discovery. You mean in like in the sales cycle? What's important there?
Either the sales cycle or things like you know, working effectively with a team or working effectively with account executives. If you kind of break into components the different aspects of the role of pre-sales at Basware, which are the most important ones?
Well, I think it's 3 topics here as well. I think the first one is discovery. So really being able to listen, especially in discovery conversations, maybe listen 95% and don't talk too much. Don't try to push the customer in a direction, but really try to find out what keeps them awake during the night, what the strategic targets are, what a current state process, for example, could look like, or how it looks like, and what their expectations towards the future target state look like. I think that's probably the first and most important point that I see for the pre-sales role. Then obviously being able to demonstrate value, to address value, to really address the targets that the customers have, and make this combination with our solution, like take our solution and put it to the customer and really present it in a way where the customer takes away that this solution will solve their problems and maybe a bit more, so we can also differentiate from our competition. And I would say the third aspect that is important for a pre-sales candidate or for a pre-sales contributor is also to be able to think outside of the box, to maybe look at things, how they're done internally, how products look like, if the products are applicable to the market, what kind of features might be required that are not in the product so far, what kind of initiatives we could drive, for example, internally to be able to help the customers better. I think this whole more strategic point of view is also an important aspect.
And when you say thinking outside of the box, because the second time when you mentioned this is very important for NSC, could you tell us if you assess this during the hiring process? Do you have some questions that you can ask?
I wouldn't say we necessarily focus on that with a huge focus, but I think you can sometimes see it, for example, in the hiring process when we're doing panel discussions or panel interviews. If people are asked to demo our solution, or if people are asked to demo something, then I think you can somehow see if they're sticking to a script that we eventually provide, or if they want to show you something completely new. Or if they're trying to show you something new, right? I think that's probably where we see it during the recruitment process. But I wouldn't say that we're necessarily putting a high focus on that. That might be something that might be a good idea to do that, actually.
I believe you already do this. If you have some candidates that show originality during the panel interview, I believe you already do that. And if you could imagine a pie chart, and that pie chart would be divided between hard skills, soft skills, and cultural fit, could you offer us some percentages of the best SEs in your team?
So the SEs in my team, I have to say that they're all highly professional when it comes to demoing by now, that they're all very knowledgeable when it comes to our solutions, and that they all have a great cultural fit towards the culture in our team. So I think for the existing SEs, I would say it's like 33%, 33%, and 33%, or 3/1/3. I would say when it comes to the hiring process, for me, the most important thing, as I said before, is the culture. I think that's like maybe 75% in my decision process when I'm hiring someone. I think when it comes to hard skills in terms of demoing, in terms of pre-sales experience, that's probably 20%, because we need to have people that we don't have to teach the basics, right? Like, okay, this is how you do a demo, and I think that's probably maybe around 20%. And then when it comes to industry knowledge, I have to say, when I started in my individual contributor role at Basra, I didn't know what purchase to pay is. I knew somehow what Basra was doing based on the recruitment process for myself, but I had no clue what purchase to pay is in detail. And by now, I'm probably an expert in the purchase to pay industry. And that can be taught. So I think industry knowledge, that's probably 5%.
Amazing. It's so interesting that you've really kind of 75% for cultural fit is really high, and so my experience personally, having worked with so many different types of vendors, is that from a candidate's perspective, culture is the real difference.
Yeah.
And culture is what really drives satisfaction in the role, longevity in the position, and so on and so forth. So I'm really interested in the fact that you seem to over-index there versus others, and also that you've had this amazing retention rate of, I assume, good SEs. So I think it works. I think there's a real clear kind of logic there. In terms of intuition during the hiring process, so you have your kind of data points, but there's always a level of intuition involved. How strong is intuition for you? How important is it? And do you want it to be as important as it is? Like, what's your view on intuition?
I think it is super important, for me at least. I need to have a good gut feeling that I can collaborate with that person in the future, and that I can coach the person in terms of our solution. I need to have a good gut feeling that this person is working well with all the other people in my team. And that's also why I think 75% is probably reasonable on the cultural fit, just simply because of the fact, if you have a candidate or someone new coming in that is not a good cultural fit in an organization like ours, where knowledge is very much in the heads of people, I would say. You need to make sure that people are willing to open their brains and to have new people pick from other people's brains, right? And if you don't have a good cultural fit, if you don't feel like people are cool collaborating with other people, and if they don't get along with each other, the existing SEs will most probably not be as supportive and as helpful as they would be if they feel like, okay, this new person that we are bringing in or that has started is something I can really well get along with.
Mm.
So I think
Good.
that's, especially for the onboarding phase and for the first couple of months, it's probably a super important topic to have this good cultural fit.
Mm-hmm.
But as I said, and also for the phase after that, like when people are coming together, for example, I would say that in our team meetings, at least when we're doing them on site, and knock on wood, now we can, at the moment, we can do them on site. After this COVID phase, it was not so easy. But I think also there, if you think that 18 people or 20 people are coming together, for example, in my team now, you want to make sure that you're not only talking business, but that you're also having a good time. And I think that's what people are really traveling for and what they are really aiming for. And I think if you have those gatherings with a culture that almost feels like you're meeting people of your family, then it is a very fruitful discussion that you have, a very open discussion that you have, and just a good time. And you make people stick, and you make people feel like I want to be on the next gathering as well, and I don't want to be somewhere else. That's, I think, the most important topic here.
Amazing. And just to follow up on that, so that's great. So you're looking closely at cultural fit. You recognize that intuition's important. Do you, so obviously there's the danger is that like biases can slip in, and you can, people that have similar personality to yourself, for example, or, that kind of thing can fog a little bit. But at the same time, it's difficult to find some kind of structure to look. So how do you think that there's a risk there? Do you structure things in a way? I mean, I don't know if you've had an instance, for example, where somebody's joined a team and you thought initially, well, they look all right, and then they turn out to be a complete superstar, and you say, what happened there? I don't know how you think about those things when you're using intuition so strongly, and if you would like to have anything to back up that intuition, or whether you just feel that it's such a kind of complex thing that intuition's all we've got.
Well, I think it would be nice to have a backup in terms of that, because of course if you look at the hiring process, and if you look at how real life situations look like, then at the end it might be completely different, right? It might be that you're hiring someone where you feel like, okay, this might be a rock star in our team, but it ends up not being a rock star and not getting the right not getting the right feedback from his stakeholders, for example, or her stakeholders. I think that's of course something where it would be nice to have some kind of backup up front. I mean, I think that's probably one of the risks in here if you follow too much of your intuition and too much of that gut feeling. On the positive note, I mean, what I have seen so far, at least, when developing people in our organization, is that most of them turned out to be rock stars. So I think in 90% of the cases, the following the intuition was the right thing to do, without any backup, because you only have those 3 or 4 engagements with the applicants, and you can really not find out whether they will be rock stars, because they can tell you pretty much everything in those conversations, and they can be interviewing great, but on the first day you figure out, maybe this is not such a good fit. Mm-hmm. So a backup there would be nice. Yes.
Good. Thank you.
So if you are thinking about your experience, do you believe that usually pre-sales managers receive enough training for hiring, or have you seen this type of hiring?
I feel it could be much more, because if you look at how other companies are doing recruitment, how they are hiring, it's almost like when you're in an interview, or when you find out about someone that is in an interview, and then you see how other companies are doing it. It's almost like you can learn from these kind of gatherings, right? And you can probably learn more from those kind of gatherings than, like, for example, from internal trainings. I mean, we at Basler, we also have internal trainings. We have a lot of internal trainings also on the recruitment process, but it always shows our perspective. It always shows what we have been doing for a long time, and it doesn't necessarily give you a good insight into how other companies are doing it in the market. So I think from that perspective, it would be very nice to have some more insights. I think that's also why I'm talking to you guys. So I'm hoping to take something away here.
Cool.
Of course, we are going to share the report results with you, and also the personality assessment and everything. So.
Yeah. And Max, one more thing as well is that we're always because we have the advantage of a situation where we work with multiple different companies. We see candidates go through interview processes at multiple different companies. You get to form an opinion as to what works, what doesn't work, and so on and so forth. So I would be always really happy to talk to you about that, and we can do it at the end of this conversation as well. Yeah. Okay, so a question: if you could go back and talk, so you've done lots of hiring. If you could go back and talk to yourself when you first started interviewing, when you were a hiring manager rookie, what advice would you give yourself? What have you learned along the way?
I think what you actually just mentioned might actually be an answer on the topic. What I have been doing in the meantime, like between I hired the first person until now. Is that I have actually been participating in training, an internal training about personality and about building teams, where we've also been doing a personality assessment, and where you are then categorized into some specific personality. I guess you know the concept. I'm pretty sure you know the concept.
We built one, so.
So I think for me that was a very eye-opening kind of training to find out about those different personalities. I think what would be super fantastic, and that's probably something I would tell myself, is to focus more on that topic, to find out, okay, what kind of personality might that person be? And I mean, in an interview situation, you can only use your gut feeling for finding this out, at least from my perspective at the moment, because we're not doing any assessments in terms of that, at least for now. I think that would probably be something that I would recommend myself to focus on more, and to really be a bit more structured in that regards, to make sure that that you're building the team with a set of diverse personalities, because you have, of course, you have people that are extremely structured, for example, you have people that are extremely dominant, you have people that are extremely supportive, and that have those, I would say, those very strong personalities in those directions. And I think what you want to make sure is that you have a good diversity of those personalities, and not have a bunch of structured people, or a bunch of only supportive people, or a bunch of only dominant people. I think that would probably be something that I would focus more on.
Super.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Sorry, I was paying a lot of attention of what you are telling us. So, have you ever seen the quality of hire being measured throughout your career?
The quality of hire?
Yes, let's say you hired someone, and then after 3 months, you wanted to see if the decision was good or not. Or it's not a concept that, because usually companies do not do that. So we were curious about your experience here.
I haven't seen that so far, I have to say. I mean, again, gut feeling, but I mean, you get a good feeling whether the candidate is a good one after probably 2 weeks, because you can by then already feel the engagement and the motivation to learn, and the fact if that person has, for example, been engaging with others, what other people are giving in terms of feedback. But I think it's more of a gut feeling, and I don't think it's necessarily something that I have seen measured in some way.
Good.
Yeah, because it's a really interesting question, because they say, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And obviously, when you make hires, you're aware of the individuals and how they're performing. So on an individual level, you're kind of tracking it. And if someone turns into a rock star, you'll say, hey, you'll kind of cross-reference that versus the interview process and think, and you'll take that into the future. And I suppose this is where intuition comes from. It's this kind of algorithm that's kind of building in our head. And if someone doesn't work out quite so well, you might go back and question. But from an organizational level, it seems like it's not measured of, what we expected when this person joined versus how this person has turned out. It's not just a good, bad sort of thing. It can be, we thought this person had great communication skills, and it turns out that there's been work needed there. But this person also had tons of grit and resilience that we didn't detect, which actually is what makes the difference, for example. And so it's just by having a more structured look at those things, you're able then to really say, we got this right, we got this wrong in the assessment process, and that then drives the change. And also just from like a bigger organization, if you think like a big multinational, lots of different teams and so on, if you have one hiring manager that's for some reason really getting it right every single time in terms of hiring, then obviously that person can become a champion. That person you can potentially you can export what that person's doing to different parts of the organization. So but it's something that it's really, really, really rarely measured properly. It's quite difficult to measure, but I think there's a lot of value there, given the importance of hiring itself.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, as a profession, and I don't know how much you speak to colleagues that are managers as well, and so on and so forth. What do you think? The pre-sales profession gets right in terms of hiring? And well, no, most importantly, where do you think that there are gaps? Where do you think that as a profession in the industry can improve? And I appreciate you may not have given this much thought, but I don't know if there's anything that jumps to mind in terms of where there could be improvements.
You mean in terms of the hiring processes?
How we hire in general. If you were sat down having a coffee with a colleague and you were talking about interviewing and kind of comparing notes, what do you think you would both agree are areas where there could be improvements? There's room for improvement.
I think that's really hard to say, because I think every company is doing it different and probably doing it their way, where they feel it's best. I think if you look especially at companies in the space where I'm at, like SaaS companies or software as a service companies, I think it's really hard to say from my perspective. If you look at larger organizations, like for example Salesforce, like those kind of companies, I think they have extremely structured, or I believe they have extremely structured recruitment processes, but they look totally different from other companies' recruitment processes, because the solutions are so much different. I think if you have a solution that is rather almost commodity, the recruitment process might look totally different from, for example, what I would call complex software. At Basler, we're doing a very complex software that is not you can't just put someone's head into a solution description and let him run demos and customer meetings 2 weeks later, while at other companies that might be possible. So really hard to say for me, to be honest, what can be improved in general, because I think it's so specific to the different employers.
Yeah. And as a final question, on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard is it for you to identify a good quality candidate pool to start interviewing from?
For me personally?
Well, how hard has it been for you across your career? Yeah.
Oh, extremely hard, I would say. As I said, I think if you think about the fact that I'm working for a company that is rather unknown in the market, I would say, even though we are very well established in the purchase to pay industry, I think if you are talking to an SE from like SAP, Salesforce, or whatever, they probably have never heard of Basler. So I think that's one of the hurdles that I have. I think the other topic is that of course the market is extremely complicated at the moment when it comes to SEs, and I know that from my team, everybody is getting requests on an almost daily basis. So people really have a bunch of offers on their plates, can basically select from them, and also from that perspective, it's really hard to even get in touch with certain people, especially if you look at the fact that maybe you're working for a company that is not so well known. They would potentially ask, but why should I talk to them if I can talk to SAP, Microsoft, Oracle, or Salesforce or so? So I think that's rather hard to get to that first point.
Yeah, because one of the big drivers for looking so heavily at assessment is based around the fact that it's such a tight candidate-driven market,
Yeah.
that naturally, because it is so hard to assess, humans are complex, and it's very comforting when you've got somebody that comes from a pre-sales role, from a competing vendor, because you can then start to ask more direct questions about how they go about things, and you know that they've had success in that role in a previous role. And so for all of those reasons, it just feels more comfortable, and that's fine. The problem is that it's such a competitive market that that candidate pool isn't always there.
Yeah.
And so another option is to look at people from industry, for example, who happen to have the procurement expertise, as an example, in terms of procurement, but also have all the makings of a great SE. And they could then, for example, go to the customer. They're sat in the customer's shoes. They've got their empathy. They understand the customer pain points. The customer sees them as a peer level. But obviously, to make that hire, you've got to be confident that the person will enjoy pre-sales, and you've got to be confident that person can, the sales acumen and all of the pre-sales skills they need to upskill, which obviously can happen. But you need to be very comfortable that they can make that transition. Or a consultant, or somebody, maybe a route that's being taken quite often now is looking at kind of graduate level individuals for pre-sales academies and that sort of thing. So for all of those types of hires, it's more of a leap into the unknown, if that makes sense. And so the more robust an assessment you have to support your intuition, so kind of guided intuition, kind of our view is the more you're able to confidently open up the pool with less risk of a mishire, and find some kind of diamonds in the rough that turn out to be great SEs.
Yeah, agree.
That's the idea.
Max, we both want to thank you so much for your time, and also we have the personality assessment that we can share with you if you are curious about this type of competency model, and if you are curious about your team. You told me that you'd like to have a very diverse team, so we can drop you a message after this call. But thank you so much for all the insights that you offered us. It is a super valuable interview. So
cool.
And from my side, just to underline that I haven't had these conversations. The focus on kind of family and culture and so on and so forth, and the fact that you've had no turnover over the last 18 months speaks volumes. So I think that I just wanted to highlight that seems a difference versus other conversations that we've had. And clearly it's working. So great stuff there. Yeah,
I agree. It's actually quite nice to have that while everybody else is talking about great resignation, sees people leaving. I really can confirm that for my team. That's very important.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Thank you again for everything, and we'll drop you the personality assessment also.
Yeah, and all the findings as well. We'll send them on to you straight away.
Cool. Looking forward to seeing that.
Thanks so much.
Thank you guys for having me. And then I will.
Bye.